I've been seeing some pictures circulate around the internet of Dwayne Wade's son and Gabrielle Union's stepson, Zion Wade. Apparently, he went to the gay pride parade down in Miami last weekend. And Gabrielle Union, as well as Dwayne Wade's other boys, were there to support him. And I've seen a lot of comments online about it. I mean, everywhere from being supportive of what they were doing with him and allowing him to be who he is, or who he feel he is, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is a lot of hate and vitriol about who he feel he is or who he is. I don't know. I'm not going to try to take that approach and talk about like, oh, it's an agenda and this and that and that. I'm not doing that because I do feel that everybody has really strong emotions when it comes to gay people. They just do, especially when you see young kids, embracing who they feel they are. A lot of people have strong opinions. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not, because a lot of that stuff is ingrained in us. We were taught this is what you do, this is what you don't do. A lot of that comes from maybe biblical teachings or what people perceive as biblical teachings. So a lot of that kind of thought is ingrained in us, which is why I don't try to argue people down when it comes to what they believe. This is how I'm going to take this approach, and this is how I'm going to talk about it. And, I know some people aren't just going to like it because they are just hell bent on this is what they think, this is what they believe, and it is what it is. And okay, that's fine. But I want to take a different approach here. I'm just going to say this. If there was anything in the world that I wanted my kid to be, it would just be happy. I think everybody just wants their kid to be happy and to grow up to be a productive citizen. That's how I feel about it anyway. And so I'm saying that to say, what does who he is affect your day? How does what he is and what he does with his time and what they do in their family affect you personally? How? It doesn't affect me. All right. This child embracing who he feel he is does not affect my day. It doesn't affect your masculinity. It doesn't affect your femininity. It doesn't affect your life. That is their child, and they can do what they want with their child. That's as simple as I can put it. Because, and I see a lot of people online saying, well, how does an 11-year-old know what he is? How does he even know? Listen, in my former life, I was a teacher, and I had taught for many years. And all the years I taught, I met two boys, different communities, different races, and all that time. And it was around, I think it was third or fourth grade. And it was clear as day that these boys, in my opinion, were gay. It's just like, you just knew. You just knew. All right. And I saw people again saying, well, why are they pushing that on his sexuality on him right now? How does he know what he likes? Well, the same way that I've seen kids have crushes, these little girls have crushes on a boy. I've seen it young. And, unless you're around them all the time, rest kids, they do develop crushes on each other, at that like 9-10 years old. I've seen that. Because again, I was in the classroom for a long time. I never encouraged anything like that, but you could clearly see it. And so for people saying, well, why are they encouraging him? Why are they telling, encouraging that sexuality? That's, what people keep saying. The same way that when you have a little boy and you keep talking about, oh, he's going to be a ladies' man, or he got a bunch of girlfriends at school. Why do people do that? Stop saying that, oh, they're pushing this on him. They're pushing him to like, well, the same way a lot of people push this whole notion of, oh, my kid have a lot of boyfriends. Oh, little so-and-so have a crush on this boy at school. And they're talking about young kids too. So Again, the only thing that the difference is that people are uncomfortable with the fact that this boy might like other boys. And that's where the discomfort comes in. Okay? That's how I look at it. Like I said, I know people aren't going to agree with me. I'm not saying that people who find this wrong are wrong. I'm not saying that. You are entitled to feel the way you feel about this. All I'm saying is that's their child. And whatever they want to do with their child is their business. Okay? I would rather have a happy child than a dead child. And of course, if I had to choose, I would always pick the happy kid, because there are a lot of kids who struggle with who they are, and they know that their family feels a certain type of way, or they're not going to get embraced or be embraced, and they end up taking their lives. And for whatever reason, there seems to be a lot more suicide these days than there has ever been when I was growing up. You know, where people are just, these young kids are killing themselves over bullying and not being accepted. And people would rather this boy be kind of like, okay, beat the gay out of him. Beat the gay out of him. Make him, you can't. I have family members. One of my cousins, we knew early, I'm talking when she was like a teenager, we all knew she was a lesbian. We knew. She went on prom with a dude, and it was just one of those things you knew, but the grown-ups wasn't having it. She only went to the prom with a boy, and it was one of our close friends, on the neighbors. You know what I'm saying? The only reason she went is because the grown-ups was not trying to hear that she was gay. They just wasn't trying to hear it. She suffered from depression for a long time. Like, she was in a depressed state. She told us how she used to want to kill herself over that. And here you have a family who is saying, you know what? Let him be who he is. Let him just be who he is. It does not mean that he has a boyfriend. Him embracing who he is does not always imply that there's sexuality. I just don't see it like that. It doesn't imply that he's dating. He's 11 years old. Again, no more than you guys would push your daughter or your son on some little boy or some little girl in school. I mean, I feel the same way. I agree. I don't necessarily think that he should be exploring that part of himself no more than I would some middle schooler. We don't want them to kind of like, engage in that kind of behavior. I don't want that for my own kid. So I don't think that that's what this is. I just think that they are trying to embrace the fact that their son feels the way he feels, and they are celebrating him because they understand that having a happy kid is better than having a dead kid. And I know some people would rather have a dead kid. I believe that. I've seen comments saying, you know what? If I had to choose, I would rather have a dead kid. Now that's sad. That's sad to me. It is. We have been so inundated with these beliefs that we can't, like I said, it's not my business. It's not in my household. It's not going to affect who I am. It doesn't affect my sexuality. It does not affect your sexuality. Men, it does not affect your masculinity one bit for whatever this child is doing or whoever he is. It does not affect you. All right. It is their household, and they are, and those are, Dwayne Wade's, that's his son, and he can raise his child any way he chooses. He is not pushing an agenda on anybody. He is just trying to embrace who his son is. Okay. Because again, this day and age with all these kids doing all this crazy stuff out here, he could be anything else. And all he is choosing to be is himself. And that just doesn't bother me one bit. I'm sorry. And, it's interesting to me that we always seem to point out that one thing out of the Bible, but, some of y'all sitting here sucking on lobster tails and shrimp and going to Red Lobster and all that stuff. And have you ever paid attention to Leviticus at all? And all the things that they say you shouldn't do, or what's wrong, and what you shouldn't be doing, and what you shouldn't be eating. And people seem to just kind of gloss over that one. Just don't even notice it. Ray Charles to everything else except homosexuality. And frankly, I just don't care. I don't. I'm sorry. I just don't care what other people do in their household. If my kid was to come home and tell me that they were gay, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I wouldn't be completely taken aback by it. But if it meant them being happy, you know what? I would just have to get over it, and I would embrace it, because I would rather have my kid here and happy and healthy than dead, because sometimes that's how these kids feel, and they just choose to take their lives. Like I said, I'm not trying to push you. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just saying I'm looking at it in a different way. That's it. That's it. And that's all. Have a great Thursday, guys.